Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Heather Abbott. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, and I want to welcome you to tonight's Ladies Leading Ladies Speakeasy. We have a very special guest, Mr. Ben Woodward. He is a best-selling author. He is a business consultant. In fact, if Ben hasn't done it, then you probably just don't need to do it. He's kind of done everything. And he's going to be talking about SMART goals. So you're definitely going to want to have a pencil and a paper handy. So, Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, welcome everyone. This is an important subject today, and I'm assuming that everyone is on our call tonight because they want to learn how to set, or at least improve their ability to set, meaningful goals that get results. Is that a fair assumption to make? Great, great. Well, I started off, as Heather said, the go-to place typically when it comes to setting goals and learning how to set goals is that principle of SMART goals. I'm going to do a quick share screen here and show you what I pulled up really quickly online. Okay, can everyone see that all right? Let me see. I should see if I can make it fit the screen. Well, now you probably can't read it. Okay, but here is a SMART goal. A SMART goal means, is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it relevant? Is it time bound? Meaning, does it have a deadline? Yeah. Now, these worksheets are a dime a dozen online. I would encourage you, if you want to use them, of course, jump out online, dig them up, print them off, fill them in, put them to good use. Here was the challenge that I came across when I started to prepare for our call tonight. I thought, you know what? I could pull this sheet up, share my screen, show it to you, and within just a few minutes, you've grasped the concept. What do I do with the remainder of the time? I want to make sure that you come away today having learned something and having been better off for it, when it comes to goals. So this is what I'm going to do with my SMART goals for today. I'm going to switch that off. Okay, we're going to take a different approach. Because yes, SMART goals are helpful. They've been around the block for many years, but wouldn't you agree that with all of the talk about SMART goals, we still see hundreds, thousands of people struggling to attain and achieve their goals? So why is that? Why is it that we've got this basic formula all summarized in one beautiful little acronym? And yet people still don't know how to get it done. They apply themselves to the system, and yet the system still lets them down. Yeah, it's been said, I'm going to share a short video with you in just a second. It's been said that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. It's an interesting difference there, isn't it? We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So the challenge that we've got is, what systems do we have in place that help us to perform at a maximum level? So I'm going to share a brief video clip with you. It's 5 minutes long, by an author by the name of James Clear, New York Times bestselling author on atomic habits. Okay, many of you, I can see, are nodding your heads. You've heard of his book, you've read it maybe, perhaps, or you're familiar with his work. Phenomenal work. I want to share this brief 5-minute clip with you now. Then we're going to have some conversation around what he's discussing, because I think we're going to get into something here that is much more meaty when it comes to what can we do individually to make sure that we get better progress in achieving our goals as entrepreneurs. So here we go. I'm going to click my share screen and let's get into this. Oh, I thought I had this all set up. There we go. Here we go. Can you see that okay?
Hi, I'm James Clear, and I'm the author of Atomic Habits. I write about habits, decision-making, and continuous improvement at jamesclear.com. A habit is a behavior that's been repeated enough times to be done more or less automatically. So it's kind of like this cognitive script that your brain can rely on whenever the situation is relevant. And this is really the role that habits play. They allow you to develop and automate solutions to the recurring problems that you face so that you can allocate your attention and energy to other problems. So what's on your to-do list for the day, or what you should say at the meeting in the morning, and so on. And so the more cognitive space you free up by automating your habits, the more you can direct your energy to the other areas of life that require your attention. So I don't think that goals are useless. They serve an important purpose, but I do think that we overvalue goals. And what I mean by that is often we think about the outcomes that we want, how much money we want to earn, or how much weight we want to lose, how long we want to meditate each day, whatever it happens to be. And we think that what needs to change are the results in our lives. We think that, for example, we need a clean room. But if you get motivated and you clean a room for, an hour or two, you'll have a clean room for now. But if you don't change the messy, sloppy habits that led to a dirty room in the first place, then you turn around a month from now and your room is dirty again. And this is kind of the deeper lesson about habits, which is that we think the results in our lives need to change, but really it's the habits behind those results that need to change. Most of your outcomes in life are just a lagging measure of your habits. So your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. The cleanliness of your room, or the clutter that is there, is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. And so in a sense, you get what you repeat. And if you want to change your outcomes, you don't need to change your goals, you need to change your systems. So the 4 laws of behavior change are a simple framework that you can use to apply and build good habits or break bad ones. To build a good habit, the 4 laws are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And to break a bad habit, you simply invert those. So you want to make your bad habits invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. For example, when I wanted to build a flossing habit, I realized that I brushed my teeth twice a day, but I didn't floss consistently. And one of the issues was that the floss was hidden away in a drawer in the bathroom. So I just wouldn't see it. So I bought a little display bowl and placed it on the counter and put the flossers right next to my toothbrush. So now it's obvious: brush my teeth, put the toothbrush down, pick a flosser up. And that's one way to employ both the first law, make it obvious, and the third law, make it easy, by having it conveniently out in the right place. If you want to break a bad habit, then one example could be watching less television or watching less Netflix. And one way to do that is, first you have to acknowledge, when you walk into pretty much any living room, where do all the couches and chairs face? They all face the TV. So what is this room designed to get you to do? It's designed to get you to watch television. So you could change the location of things. So instead of making it obvious, you want to make it invisible. So you could put the television behind a wall unit or a cabinet so that it's, behind doors, less likely to see it. Or you could put the remote control in a coffee table or something like that, so you don't see the remote control as often. But you also could make it more difficult. So for example, you could unplug the television after each use and only plug it back in if you can say the name of the show that you want to watch. So there's no mindlessly just turn on Netflix and find something. Or if you wanted to take the batteries out of the remote control, that would add a little bit more friction. So it takes an extra 5 or 10 seconds each time to turn it on. And you may have to say, all right, do I really want to watch this, or am I just doing this out of habit? One of the key ideas in the book is that a habit must be established before it can be improved. And what I mean by that is you should scale your habits down to something you can do in just the first 2 minutes. So for example, do yoga 4 days a week becomes take out your yoga mat, or read 30 books a year becomes read 1 page. And by scaling it down to something you can do in just 2 minutes, you can focus on mastering the art of showing up and establishing your habits. And once you do that, once you become the type of person who takes out their yoga mat 4 days a week or reads 1 page every day, every night, you allow yourself the option to improve and optimize from there. But so often we're focused on finding the perfect diet plan or the perfect plan for change, the ideal business idea. And we're so focused on optimizing for the finish line that we never figure out how to optimize for the starting line. And that's often the place that I would recommend you start if you're looking to build a good habit. Scale it down to just the first 2 minutes, master the art of showing up, and then you have options.
Okay, I think some powerful content in what he just shared. Master the art of showing up, the first 2 minutes. Far too often when it comes to goal setting, we set our plan around what a perfect finish line looks like. And the challenge with that is when we're reaching for perfection, we often fail to start. I've done that countless times when I've wanted to improve, for example, my health. I recognize some needs to make some changes in my diet or my fitness on a daily basis, my fitness regime. And I go, and because I'm a perfectionist, I go, if I'm not going to go to the gym at least 3 times a week, if I'm not going to have this type of a diet and drink this amount of water and do this type of exercise all the time, then I don't start. And what happens? Nothing changes. Yeah. And that happens over and over again. We focus so much on the end, but we give very little time to the beginning. And what's interesting is he gave that emphasis. Focus on the first 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes. I think that's really, really powerful. So with that in mind, I want to share another thought in regards to the first couple of minutes. And this, for me, I really related to this, not because I'm a golfer by any stretch, because I'm not, but I related to it when I used to play music. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of a golfer by the name of Ben Hogan, but Ben Hogan has been recognized as one of the greatest golfers of the 20th century. And one of the reasons he was recognized for this was because of what people referred to him as doing, as inventing, being the inventor of, unusually enough, this sounds weird to say, practice. Is that interesting? He was the inventor of practice. Now, how did that work? How did he become the inventor of practice? This is what he did. He said, I just couldn't wait to get up in the morning. He said, at the crack of dawn, I'd be out there on the golf course, ready to hit balls. He said, I'd be at the practice tee, hitting balls for a few hours. Then I'd take a break. Then I'd be right back at it. He said, but for every practice session, I had a purpose. This is the difference. And this is what, if you're going to make any notes tonight, this is where I want you to really take some note, because we often talk about the importance of repetition in our business, don't we? Doing the same critical activities on a daily basis. That can get very tiresome or mundane if I'm doing it day in, day out. Yeah. If I say to you, look, if you want to build your business, you've got to build your contact list. And what do we tell everyone? Add new names to your list every day. Yeah. And well, that sounds great for someone that's just starting. If you're doing that after 30 days, that can be tough. If you've been in the business for 5 years, oof, there's a different feeling now. But now we're saying extend invitations. You should be talking to people every day, right? And extend invitations on a regular basis. Show the plan 3 times a week, right? Show the plan 3 times a week. Okay, that sounds great if I'm just getting started, if I'm doing my ABCs. But after a year, that's going to feel slightly different, isn't it? For many people. So how do we change this? This to me is the secret sauce to really making a significant difference when it comes to goal improvement, results improvement in our business. This is what Ben Hogan mastered when he mastered or invented the art of practice. He said that every practice session he had a purpose. He said that he broke down every phase of the golf swing and tested new methods for every segment so that he could get a near perfect result for each segment of the swing. And he developed one of the most finely tuned golf swings in the history of the game as a consequence. And they said, as a consequence of this, his performance made him more like a surgeon than a golfer. Isn't that interesting? He was just a master of it. So what he did was he methodologically, I can't get my word out, methodically, there we go. I fumbled on my words. He methodically broke down the game into chunks and figured out how to master every little section. So even when he went to different courses, he would know with each hit, with each swing of the golf club, what the yardage was from this point to the next point, from that point to the next point. And he broke it down and he studied very carefully using which trees and sand bunkers as reference points to measure and all that type of thing. And as a consequence of that, like I said, he mastered the art of the game. So this is the point that I want to share. We practice on purpose. There's a huge difference to simply practicing and going through the motions or repetition of the art or of the mechanics. If we're just going through the mechanics, it will become very mundane and very boring very quickly. But if we learn to do it with focus, things start to change. When I read about Ben Hogan, this story resonated with me because when I was younger, I used to play music all the time. I used to play the trombone and I was in jazz groups. And this is what I used to do. And I found that this just, I was like, I used to do this type of stuff in my practice. So I would have band practice when I was a student at school before, zero period, I guess, at the beginning of class, at the beginning of school, before the first period of school. And I would always find that there would be a section of music that would be particularly difficult for me to play or to perform. A little piece of a particular part that I'd go, I just can't get my head around that. It's difficult, it's complicated. And so what I'd do is, as I was walking from the music department to my next class, I'd be thinking about it in my head. And I would have the notes in my mind and I would rehearse it in my mind. And I would go, because the trombone has got 7 set positions, and I would go through the different positions. I go there, 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 and you've got to change your embouchure because there's more than 7 notes, of course. So you tighten your lips to go higher, you loosen them to go lower, and you're doing all that kind of stuff. And I would practice this as I was walking from class to class. As I was walking home and walking to school, I would practice. And then when I got back to my music department, when I got back home and opened up my instrument and practiced it, surprise, surprise, I could play it better. Isn't that interesting? And I found that I could actually perform that little piece better when I hadn't even picked up my instrument. Why? Because I've been rehearsing in my head. I've been practicing on purpose. And so what I'd like to suggest is, as we look at the critical activities for building our business, we don't just simply want to practice, we want to practice on purpose. So if we say, for example, I want to set a goal, perhaps this is one of my goals, and I'll get to more specifics of this later in just a few minutes, of reaching out to maybe 10 new people over the next couple of days. Okay, well, I'm going to do this on purpose. So this isn't just a process of making contacts. I'm deliberately striving to improve my performance so that by the time I've done my 10th, I'm better than the time I did my first. Now, all of a sudden, if I'm doing that day after day after day, week after week, I'm going to become the master contactor. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to get pretty fun. Yeah, because you're going to learn tricks and tips that's going to change the way you perform and the results you get in ways that you didn't expect. Because our natural tendency, as we go through this process of repetition, is to turn a repeated behavior into a habit. And we've often heard it said that 10,000 hours spent on an activity makes us a professional. Yeah, but what if those 10,000 hours are badly spent? Then we're not. Yeah, so it's not about practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So we need to practice on purpose in order to improve our performance, in order to get the better results. Okay, so that is something, to me, as the biggest takeaway for today, has got to be that for all of the different critical activities that we establish for our goals, for our business building, we need to understand that we need to practice on purpose. And we need to see all of those activities as practice activities. Yeah. If we go to the doctor's surgery and that's called a practice, and they're doctors, and it's a practice, then surely what we can do can be called a practice too. Yeah. So we can be in the art of practice as well. in building our business. So I want to stress that. So I want to also pull up, I want to share my screen again and get down to just a couple of slides that I've put together here. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so he says we've got to bring it down to the first couple of minutes. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Ugh. I want to be able to see your faces. I couldn't see you before. Okay, so there you go. He said that it really comes down to not focusing on the perfect end, but starting with the perfect, or starting with the first 2 minutes, yeah, and showing up, mastering the art of showing up. So if we can master the art of showing up and commit to the first couple of minutes, now we've got a chance of improvement, because if we're going to do just a couple of minutes of contacting, chances are 2 minutes can lead to 5 and 5 minutes can lead to 10. Yeah. So that means immediately we can improve. And there's nothing that feels better when it comes to goal setting and goal achievement than what? Progress. Yeah. We need to feel a sense of progress. So if we can master the art of showing up, focus on the first couple of minutes, we're going to be able to make some great improvements over time, especially when those first 2 minutes are focused on practicing on purpose. Yeah. See how this all starts to come together. But what we're noticing here is we're now starting to change some habits. He's made this shift, hasn't he, from saying, you know, let's think less about SMART goals and think more about a change of habits. But we know that habits are hard to change. And that's because, as it says here, we often change the wrong things, or we're trying to change them in the wrong way. And I want to focus on this as a critical point before we wrap up, or perhaps before we have some Q&A, or if you want to ask some questions. Now, there was some language here that he talked about in the video, and I'll stop sharing the screen to discuss this in a second. But he's got this wonderful bullseye where it focuses on outcomes, processes, and identity. When it comes to setting goals, in many instances, we start with focusing on a change of outcomes. I want to, for example, recruit more people. That's my goal, yeah? Or I want to rank advance. I want to get a better income. These are outcomes, yeah? Now, he said, if you recall, that outcomes are a lag measure of our behaviors, yeah? So I'm going to stop the screen share for just a second and discuss this. Because lag measure, I want to discuss this phrase, lag measure. We have two types of measures when it comes to goals and measuring these types of things. You've got lag measures and you've got lead measures. A lag measure is something that can measure the past. A great example of this is if you take your car into the garage for a service and they say the tires are worn. There's nothing you can do about that. It's in the past, right? That's a lag measure. It shows that you've been using it. Nothing you can do. A lead measure is something in the future. Yeah. Now, interestingly, James Clear kind of takes this to another level. First of all, he says, let's not focus on the lag measures, the outcomes, focus on the identity. The identity is who we are. So rather than saying, I want to lose weight, we say, I am a healthy person. Yeah. And as we change our language, our inner monologue with ourselves, and change the way we view ourselves, especially if we're showing up for the first couple of minutes to our goal, then we're going to get some very quick wins, aren't we? And with a lot of repeated quick wins, what happens? Our confidence changes. Because here's the challenge. When we are focusing on SMART goals, as an example, when we aren't getting the results that meet our needs, what happens? We're saying to ourselves, I need to try harder. I need to do better. I'm not good enough. And it all starts to come back on me. Yeah? I'm the problem. This is the model that everyone has taught me, but this isn't working for me. I'm trying harder and it's not working for me. There's a problem there. And that doesn't do any good for our motivation when it comes to trying to get better results. What James Clear emphasizes here is change the system. Change the system. And like I said, the system we've drilled down today to keep it super simple. Rather than focus on a perfect end, focus on showing up and mastering the first couple of minutes. And with that, we can show improvement. And with improvement, we feel progress. And with progress, we feel good. And when we feel good, we do more. And when we do more, we do better. You see that virtuous circle that happens as a consequence. And yet all we've done is focus on the first couple of minutes. And of course, we've done it deliberately. We're saying, I'm doing this with a focus on improvement. Each time I do this, I'm going to look at a way to do it better. Benjamin Franklin had an interesting story about Benjamin Franklin. When he was younger, his father criticized his handwriting and said his handwriting was very poor. So surprisingly, unlike most teenagers, he took his father's advice and pulled out some pen and paper and started to work on his craftsmanship of his writing. And he selected a number of different books and he started to write out not just what they would say, but he would write out what he felt each sentence meant. And then he'd put it into his own words. And then he'd dissect his own words, see where he went wrong, and look at ways to make it better. Isn't that interesting? I remember when I was younger, I've had people say to me a lot as I'm older, have commented on the way that I speak. And I've had it said a few times when I've spoken at different events. I remember one person came up to me and said, have you been trained? I noticed that you didn't say once in your presentation, right? And I said, oh, I haven't been trained. But you know what the difference was? You know why that's the case? When I was younger, when I was a young boy, my mum used to say to me, Ben, I can't understand what you're saying. You're mumbling. Speak clearly, articulate your words, right? And she did the same thing to me. And she would say, speak clearly, you're mumbling. And she'd always, and I grew up in New Zealand, and in New Zealand, when I was a teenager, you'd always say, you know, at the end of a sentence. Kiwis go up at the end of a sentence, don't they? So if I'm speaking with my Kiwi accent, I tend to go up at the end of a sentence like that. That's kind of what it sounds like. And I'd always say what I'm saying. And then I say, you know, and she'd say, yes, I know. Stop telling me. I know. Cut it out. And so she taught me by drilling it in, articulate, cut out all the slang, stop using slang, articulate your words, speak clearly, right? And as a consequence of that, as I grew older, it helped me a lot in my profession in learning to communicate better. Yeah, she taught me to pay attention to what I was saying and to practice. And I learned as a result of that to practice speaking on purpose. Isn't that interesting? Just practice speaking on purpose. So that's what I wanted to emphasize today. As you look at your plans, I'm going to do one last share screen just to wrap it up. I'm going to go back to that slide that we were on before. When it comes to our goals, our focus is really on what we want to be. Yeah, not the outcome. The outcome is a physical manifestation of our behaviors and our habits. And our habits are a physical manifestation of what we think, feel, and believe. Yeah, what we do is the fruit of what we think, feel, and believe. And what we do repeatedly over time will lead to certain outcomes and behaviors, certain outcomes in our lives. So the key to change is to really drill down to the center and change what I believe about myself. And the way to start, where do I start in that process? We start really quite simply by having a few actionable items that are measurable in a way that is tangible. Like I talked about, the first 2 minutes, master the art of showing up, practice on purpose, understand, who do I want to be? It's not simply about, I'm going to make sure that I contact 10 people over the next couple of days. I'm going to do 3 presentations a week. I'm going to get to silver by the end of the month. I'm going to get to gold in the next 3 months. It's not simply about that. We've got to dig deeper. I'm going to be a master communicator. I'm going to do that by talking to 10 people every day. And every time I talk to someone, I'm going to measure and evaluate how I did. And I'm going to seek to improve. And I'm going to observe what I did that went well, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. And if there's something I did wrong, I'm going to correct what I did wrong and do something different. And if I'm not quite sure what went wrong, I'm going to try something different and see if I can figure out something better. Yeah. And we practice and practice until we become the master communicator. Or we say, I want to be a great leader, and I'm going to do that by developing a wonderful team. And a byproduct of that will be my check will increase. Yeah. I'll feel a greater sense of fulfillment in what I do in my business. Yeah. I'll rank advance. Those will be byproducts of what I get because of what I have become. Yeah. But if I focus on what I do, on what I become, who I am, and build that out and commit to showing up for the first couple of minutes, I truly believe that miracles can happen over time in our business. I really believe that. And if we make that type of a focus in the way that we set our goals, and yes, I would include, by the way, along with James Clear, I agree with him that goals have their place. And we do want them to be time sensitive. We do want to put some measurements there to hold ourselves accountable. Yeah, that is important that we do that. So we want to hold ourselves accountable, have an accountability partner, share it with them, buddy up. I think that is always helpful. But let's focus on who we are versus simply on our outcomes. Yeah, and then recognize that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And the first critical system that we put in place is that we master the art of showing up. Yeah. So I hope this has been helpful today. Thank you very much for letting me be a part of the meeting. Apologies again for the absence of my hats. I desperately need to get a hat. Heather, you're making me feel dreadful for not owning any hats.